Today, we're talking about navigating the complexities of dementia care with a panel of experts, including practical tips for everyday life, environmental adjustments, and managing family dynamics. So stay tuned and we'll get into it. Hi, Dr. Lakelyn here. Welcome to Caregiver Chats. I'm a gerontologist and caregiving advocate for Home Instead, an honor company. I'm so glad you're taking the time to join me. These conversations are a space for learning, reflection, and support. And I invite you to subscribe to Caregiver Chats on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget, I love hearing from you. You can connect with me on Instagram at Caregiver Chats Podcast. June is Brain Health and Alzheimer's Awareness Month. And since dementia impacts so many different aspects of life, hosting a panel of dementia experts just felt right. Today, we're diving deep into the realities of caregiving with three incredible guests. We have Michelle Magner, Carrie Aalberts, and Erin Fish joining the podcast to discuss tips and strategies for caring for a loved one living with dementia. This was such a great conversation that you won't want to miss. Today, we are going to hear from three dementia care experts. We are live and in person in Omaha in our studio, and I cannot wait for this discussion. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, gosh, this is like the highlight of my summer. Great way to kick off the month of June. It's Brain Health and Awareness Month, so a dementia panel just felt so right. And we're all here together in Omaha for a very special event that you guys are hosting that Home Instead is sponsoring, Dining with Dementia. So we can talk a little bit about that. But before we dive too far into our conversation, would love for each of you to introduce yourselves to our listeners. And some of you may recognize a few of our guests. They've been with me on Caregiver Chats before, so great to have them back. So Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks so much for having us. This is so fun. My name is Michelle Magner. I am the founder of Inspired Caring. It's a virtual support and education program for family caregivers. My connection with dementia is my mother-in-law lived with frontotemporal dementia for 12 years, and then I worked in a memory care community, really beautiful senior living community. So really happy to be here and hope that the families are eager to tune in and listen.
Thanks so much, Michelle. It's so good to have you back. And Carrie, you've been on our podcast a couple times, so it's so fun. We met in person last night for the first time and embraced like we were long friends because I feel like we have been friends forever. And now officially we've hugged it out. Yes. So tell our listeners a little bit about you if they don't already know.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited to officially be here too. It feels so special and full circle. But I'm Carrie Aalberts, aka Dementia Darling is what I go by. And I am, because of a family experience with my grandmother, it has led me into being an educator and advocate and in the dementia care space. And I really want to be the caregiver cheerleader in your corner. And so I just love being here, having these conversations and sharing all of the things that I've learned throughout the years and learning from all of you. So I'm really excited to be here and learn and excited for Dining with Dementia. We're so grateful.
That'd be fun.
To have this group. Thank you.
Yes. Well, and Erin, you're new to the podcast, so welcome.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then maybe you can tell us a little bit about this Dining with Dementia event.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Erin Fish. I'm the founder of Trestle Hospitality Concepts, and I'm at the low end of the dining or dementia expert because you guys know way more than I do. But we do hospitality consulting and senior living. So food, resident experience. It's all about, we say, elevating the experience for the resident. And so when this opportunity to create the workshop came about, it just made a perfect sense for Trestle to be a part of it.
That's awesome. So. Well, yeah, and the two of you together seem like a dream team. And so later today, we have a family caregiver event, and then all day tomorrow, you're educating professionals with the CE series. And we'll have your website in our show notes if people are interested to learn more, because I know you're taking this show on the road, if you will, and spreading this education far and wide, which again is so important and so needed. So I'm grateful that it brought you all to Omaha. So selfishly, we could be here in studio to record. And since we've never done a panel like this before, I came up with a few fun segments for us to discuss as it relates to dementia. So the first segment is helpful, harmful, or depends. So we're going to go through a few scenarios and discuss as a group if we think it's helpful to a person with dementia, harmful, or maybe it just depends on their stage or the person, because as we know in this field, if you met one person with dementia, you've met one person. So I have a feeling where some of this is going to go, but thought it'd be a fun way to frame it up. So the first, is it helpful, harmful, or depends? Surveillance and monitoring technology. So that would be, like cameras, wearables. How do we feel about that? Where are we at on that one?
I love technology. I love it. Give me anything that is going to take a little bit of stress off a caregiver's back, a little bit, just having a peace of mind, another set of eyes is everything, I think. But there's a fine line, right?
Yeah.
There's privacy. We're adults. We don't need to be watching our parents 24/7 through cameras. That's why I really like, there's a lot of just new dignified technology that you're not just watching them on a camera. It's, the GPS trackers, even just from your phone, if they're able to have that on their phone still, and or their watch. I love, you can buy just on Amazon, the air tags in the sole of your shoe.
Yes.
Those are brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, truly.
I agree.
Yeah. If you have someone that's walking out the door, constantly, that is a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And because I know there's that fine line, with the camera type of and watching someone. There's a company, Altum View, that created where it is a camera, but it makes your person a stick figure.
Oh, that's fun.
So they could be naked and in their house, but you just see out there, but you don't see anything detailed. So it's kind of cool. But there's those fine lines, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
But the peace of mind is everything if it's appropriate.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Anyone else have thoughts on that?
No, I look at it always from kind of like the health and nutrition aspect, right?
Yeah.
Dealing with food, like how can we better understand like the nutrition intake? Are they getting rid of that? So thinking, how can you use technology for that? I think there's ways to do that. And so there's obviously ways you can use the right technology. But again, I'm kind of like, what can we do to make someone more independent, more, have their live their life better? And so that's where I think the line kind of gets drawn, like in that frame.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to talk again, but that's why I think like my Oura ring, like I think these are going to be really big. It tracks, how I sleep. And if we could see someone who maybe can't verbally tell me I didn't sleep well last night, but we can see that, and then they have a harder day, we know we can meet them better. We can have data.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. I think it's a lot that we can utilize to better care.
What comes to mind for me always is health, safety, and well-being for the person that we're caring for, and then also for ourselves. Yeah. And I think part of the conversation that we are not having is what were people's habits prior to the diagnosis, prior to that caregiver being so involved and trying so hard to micromanage every aspect of someone's life. And people are quirky and we have odd habits. And if you have someone who has just always been a night owl and now we are trying to get them on a specific schedule, there's a dignity issue there. There's an independence issue there. And I feel like with technology, if we can use it to our advantage and that it's supporting that person living with dementia and the caregiver, it's really valuable. And like also just have an awareness of how people operated prior to that diagnosis or that level of care that's being required now.
Yeah. So many great points. I think we all talked about like if it helps with the independence, if it helps with that peace of mind, that's so important. And I think it's also, we have to look at it from a place of like, let's involve the person, if able, in the conversation about the wearables. Let's explain what they're for instead of forcing them upon a person, because I think sometimes the caregiver is like, oh, this new technology is going to be so great. And then we put it into the house and then we come back a week later and it's like sitting on the counter and it's not charged. So I think we have to think about it from different angles too. Like, yes, it's going to be helpful in these different ways, but logistically, like, how are we going to charge these devices? Are we going to make sure how are we going to make sure that they're wearing them and actually utilizing them? Because technology is useless if it's just sitting on the shelf. So I think we've agreed that it is helpful, but it depends on the situation. And we need to think about it from, those multiple angles, the person living with dementia and their caregiver.
Yeah. One other thought, and this is something that we talk about in our workshop, is like the communication aspect, right? We know, as someone progresses, like communication becomes harder and harder, right? the right technology fills in some of that communication gap, right? Like in all aspects of food, I think about like the data points and how that helps, right? It's a communication piece. It's a way for us to get that communication from the person we're caring for, be able to help support them better. I think that's another key piece to mention.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that addition. I'm glad you threw that in there at the end. Well, I've got to keep us moving along. So our second category that we're going to discuss, helpful, harmful, or depends, mirrors in the living environment. What are people's thoughts?
Well, having worked in memory care, I know that it certainly depends on where someone is on their dementia journey. And I think it goes back to health, safety, and well-being for me, and what is going to serve someone and help them feel loved and supported and feel like who they are. Because it can be confusing to know your chronological age and have this reflection coming back that doesn't match where you think you are in your life. And it can be alarming to people and frightening.
Yeah. Can you imagine? That's like a horror movie, right? It's not you. And this is everyday life for certain people. And unfortunately, in a lot of senior living communities, or, you can't take mirrors off. At home, you can. Right? Usually, not all the time. Just kidding. I don't know what I'm saying. All places you can. Just kidding. But if you have the opportunity to take something off, if it's an issue, do it. It's not like it can definitely become a problem for people. And it makes sense. It completely makes sense why, but it depends because not everyone will feel that way or have that, change. But being aware if that becomes distressing, being in the restroom is becoming distressing, you're wondering why, maybe looking in the mirror is the reason. And just noticing those things. Are they seeing their reflection in the car door window and it's freaking them out? Like, if we're noticing where maybe agitation is happening, that could be one of the reasons why.
Yeah. Anytime I think about the physical environment, I go back to, what are you doing to soothe anxiety? Especially when I think about the dining experience, right? Because there's so much that goes into that. But does it soothe anxiety for them to have the mirror or to take it away? Like that for me is the question. Like if it does, then you should do whichever direction. That's what makes sense to me.
And it's just like with, if someone's having a hallucination, there can be good and bad hallucinations. Same way being in the mirror. You can think that person in the mirror is your best friend. And I've seen that. And it's like, she's the nicest lady. You hang out with her every day. But then there's the opposite where I've seen, a wife helping her husband living with dementia in the mirror, and he sees his wife with another man in the mirror because that's not him anymore. So now his wife is cheating.
Wow.
So it can go two ways. Yeah. So again, depends. But being aware that can be a trigger is really a game changer, just knowing that.
Yeah. I think that just being mindful, paying attention, getting curious, like, okay, where's this agitation stemming from? And could it be the mirrors? So if family caregivers haven't thought about that before, maybe we've given them a few things to consider. But I think we, again, landed on, well, it kind of depends on if they're helpful or harmful. And kind of along these same lines, what about the next category, helpful, harmful, or depends, photos across a person's lifetime, kind of in their environment? So maybe there's pictures of them as a young person or maybe at their current chronological age. What are your thoughts on photos?
I had a scarring experience I'll never forget. And this is how I learned this lesson the hard way. It was Mother's Day event. I was, head of engagement activities, and I'm so excited doing Mother's Day, a brunch for the families. And we did glamour shots the week before. I had a photographer come in. We did makeup, we had the boas, the hair. It was beautiful. It was a fun time. Everyone had a blast. But a week later, sharing those pictures to these women, I had them, printed on their table. And one woman who was 98, I think, she came up and slammed it on the floor. She said, "Don't tell me that's me." She was 20 or 30. And I just totally said, "No, this is you. This 98-year-old woman is you." And she was just so distraught. And it was in front of all the family. So I was distraught that I did this to this poor woman on Mother's Day. And then some other women started to get upset too. And I just learned those pictures, recent pictures, go to the families right away and not to the person. Because if, again, you don't identify with that person, that is jarring, that is distressing, that is traumatic, right? And so meeting them where they are in their timeline and trying to figure out, okay, like if your mom doesn't respond to mom anymore, maybe she's in a space where she wasn't a mom yet. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
So thinking back, okay, maybe she was in her early 20s. Let's put pictures out from that time in her life. And that might be better to relate with. But it makes sense because we're going in time.
And maybe a fair question is this person in this photograph familiar to you? Instead of do you remember or is this you, right? Is this a familiar face to you? And I think it also depends because again, depending on where they are in the timeline, but also it could spark a happy memory. Maybe they're not looking at the person. Maybe it's the background that somebody is seeing that is going to spark something for them that is creating joy and connection.
Yeah. Or maybe it's a photo of Christmas morning and then it sparks a conversation about, oh, remember Christmas when you were a child and coming down the stairs and seeing the presents, talking more about the feelings, the emotions that are being evoked by the photo and not so much the people and the exact place and time.
Yeah.
Because it becomes a quiz and it's like, I don't want a pop quiz. I want to hang out with you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I don't want this to start to feel like we're giving people a task list of what they should and shouldn't do, right? We're just saying, is there openness? Is there curiosity? Is there a space to explore? And we know with dementia, it's like the greatest improv show of your life. So you are a cast member now in their world. And so how can we with pictures spark joy, invoke good things, and not feel so stressed about doing the wrong thing?
I love talk about all this.
I know. Okay. Our last one, helpful, harmful, or depends. Sweets and junk food. And I look at Aaron because he's our food and hospitality expert. So I'll let you take the first go at this one.
Well, one of the things that we talk about during the workshop that I think is so important is a lot of times we think we've got to do the meals and we've got to course it the right way. And we got to make sure we get healthy food to everybody, which is important. But it's really, I think, more important that they're eating regularly. And so if that means that they got to have a cookie before they start eating, if that's the trigger that gets them going and into the process, if they are wanderers, if they want to get up and walk around and move, well, maybe, we were talking about popsicles, there's an opportunity there to get that nutrition in them, get the calories in them. And the other piece of that is I think of this term, it's called stealth health. Right. And so,
tell us more about that.
So can you make something that is a sweet or a junk food healthier? Right. This is not that, but the example that always comes easy that I think people can relate to is sneaking spinach into your kids' marinara sauce when they eat spaghetti and meat sauce. Right. So think about ways where, well, how can I increase the protein, or can I provide more nutrition in this? Can I make a popsicle that's from fresh fruit juice as opposed to something I just buy that's loaded with sugar? So you can make it healthier, but it still has that sweet tooth trick. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of ways to go about doing that. Don't overburden yourself with it. But if you can do that, and if you benefit from it, I think do it for sure.
And it's a quality of life thing. We talk about it in our session because our first session is about from the people living with dementia and what they're experiencing. And we talk about the loss of taste.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Oh, it's horrible. And one woman, everything tasted, she said fish dosed in gasoline. Oh, that's literally what her coffee tasted like all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So if you can't explain that to someone, can you imagine? Yeah. And food and taste is such a joy in life, at least for me. Yeah. And to have that taken away on top of everything else that is being taken and is changing is just something that we need to also recognize and try and find what works, because our taste buds change throughout our lives. That's fair. Your person might have not liked something in the past. You can try other things. And just, it's the quality of life. It's letting a cookie before.
It's not the end of the world.
Right.
That's the
maybe
thing.
5 cookies before, but
exactly.
It's just that it's the choose your battles too.
Right.
Right. And
absolutely. This is this jarring statistic that I learned many years ago. by the age of 70, you've lost 55% of your taste buds.
Wow.
And so like, if you don't think about that and acknowledge that, like somebody who has perfect brain health at 70 is still going through this experience. Now compound it with somebody with these cognitive concerns.
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea what's going on with their taste and their experience. So, you know, if the cookie or the fudgesicle or whatever it is gets them going and you can get some nutrition and some calories in that person, I say it's a home run, do it.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'll say one more thing. It's cool because tech is where we're going in this. And there's the coolest tech that I saw last year that's going to hopefully be coming out one day for all of us to have. But it's a spoon that literally salts your food. Like it tastes like your food's salted, but it's not. So you're not getting the sodium intake. But you get the taste from the spoon.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like the way the currents
Game
flow through
changer.
it. Yeah.
That would be because
Wow.
my grandpa has started like adding a lot of salt and he says everything tastes bland. And my grandma is like the best cook. So for her, that was so offensive, you know, when that first started happening. But he says like, well, I can't really taste or smell much anymore. And so as we've been talking about, food is such an important part of our lives. I mean, we all eat 3 times a day. Like I'm probably 5 times a day because I love to snack. And so, you know, we want to be sure that people have foods that they can enjoy. And I think sometimes caregivers, they're already so stressed with all these things and to have to stress about mealtime is just like adding to the emotional and logistical load. And so, you know, if your loved one's only gravitating towards those sweets, maybe you lean into that and you use that to your advantage to make sure meals go a little smoother.
And I would offer in our family, when my mother-in-law was diagnosed with dementia, my father-in-law basically was like, well, who cares? None of it matters anymore. And so I circle back to what are the physicians recommending for that person as well. Because she basically would only drink Diet Coke. And we were saying as a family, like, we think it'd be best if we could encourage water. And he was basically like, she can have whatever she wants now. And I do really appreciate that perspective. And like medically, what does that person need to sustain themselves? And we didn't want her at risk for UTIs and things like that. So being creative with like watermelon or other foods that are like the sneaky, what do we call it?
Health.
Stealth health that Aaron talks about. Yeah. So what are some other ways that we can add to support her?
Sweets are often the easiest things to grab and they're the prettiest. So remember that, like, why don't we make something that's pretty, that's not a sweet and it's grabbable, you know, and like grabbable and all the things.
Yeah, that's the key. I think a lot of times we start thinking about the taste of the food. This is literally the last part of the dining experience, the eating experience. It's what you see, it's what you smell, it's what you hear. I always use the example of going to the Mexican restaurant and ordering a plate of fajitas. Walk through that process of like, you hear it,
I'm getting
you
hungry.
see it, you smell it
coming.
like it's in front of you. And like you have fully immersed yourself in that food experience and nothing has touched your tongue yet. Right. And so how do you do that? The other thing I thought of as we were talking, because I always come from like being the senior living guy, the operator, that's where I come from. But as a caregiver, right, sometimes you need the sweet or the snack too. Right. And so it's the win of, oh, this is good for me to sit down with this. And maybe if I get some stealth health, or maybe I just need to have that popsicle and I can enjoy it with my person. And like, we both have a moment and we're also like having that shared experience around food. And it's a 5-minute break. I mean, you're just sitting there and enjoying the moment, maybe even 5 minutes of silence that you maybe need. And so food is a whole like experience.
Oh, absolutely. So many great tips just shared. And I appreciate everyone's perspectives on that. And next, I wanted to transition to some of the most frequently asked questions because, you know, all of us are podcasters. We all interact with family caregivers on a regular basis. We get lots of questions. So I'm curious, what are you hearing in terms of questions? And maybe Michelle, we'll start with you.
Sure. So one of the questions that comes up very frequently is this normal? And families are having very unique experiences. Because you meet one person living with a dementia, you've met one person living with dementia. We know that. But they are concerned because so many of people's actions are sometimes different than what they maybe how they would have proceeded in the past. And things catch others off guard, families off guard. So they're just wondering, like, is this normal? Is this how this is going to go? And the response I offer is like, none of this is normal, right? It's like really hard. It's really hard. And we're constantly like Johnny on the spot, shifting gears. And there are also some common denominators based on the different phase of a dementia journey, based on experiences that family caregivers have, their feelings that they're having. There's frequently, unfortunately, a lot of guilt or resentment or fear that people have. We also have a lot of room for opportunities for joy and a deeper connection or a new experience. So is this normal? I think the answer is no, and sort of. Yeah.
So
They're really good ones.
Yeah.
And that's why the misconception of just memory loss is happening is so harmful. Because we go into this and say, well, she's just going to forget a couple of things. We can handle that. Well, her personality might completely change.
Right.
Yeah.
Her physical, being able to walk might change. All these things. And they just stack and stack. And that's if you're just dealing with dementia. You might be dealing with cancer and diabetes and all these other things on top of it. So it just is, it's a disservice to say it's only memory loss with dementia. And that's just something as a society we have to change. Yeah. Because people are getting into this and they're like, I've been lied to. And it's like, yeah, we know. It's not just that.
Yeah.
They're dealing with so much. Yeah.
Such a great point. Erin, what about you? What are some of the frequently asked questions you've been getting?
That's a lot. But I think the biggest one is I can't get mom, dad, grandma, whoever to drink water. Right. I know, like, if I ever wind up in that situation, it's going to be a huge task for me because I don't think about drinking water enough. It's just not something, that I do. And so if that's just part of your daily rhythm, it becomes even more of a struggle. And so how do you get hydration in somebody's daily routine if they don't want to drink water? And what I would tell people, and this was something I learned from one of the dietitians that I've worked with, is that if something doesn't have caffeine in it, you can count it as hydration.
Oh, okay.
So decaf coffee is mostly water, right? Think about, we mentioned like watermelon earlier, like what are fruits that you can give them they'll eat, right? There's so much of that. Like soups, all of these different ways to introduce hydration that maybe they might be more engaged with or more willing to consume. I have started myself drinking like a sparkling water because it has a little bit of flavor in it, and it's like a soda type experience, but all it is just like it's flavored water.
Yeah.
Some fruit to it.
Yeah, exactly. And so if it's visually appealing, if they want to consume it, then don't just think I got to get them their 8-ounce glasses of water a day or whatever. Like, there are so many different ways to do that, and be creative and try to think about your person's history and how maybe they would have consumed and gotten that hydration in another way. Last night we were talking about, like, for me, pineapple and watermelon's like my favorite fruit combination. Well, there's a whole lot of really good hydration there. Yeah. And you put a big bowl of that fruit in front of me, I'm probably going to eat all of it. So just thinking that way about what can help, I think, is such a huge thing. So don't just dial into it's got to be water. It's got to be water when it comes to hydration.
And it doesn't have to just be a glass. You can drink out of a wine glass.
Yeah.
Water. You can, some people prefer teacups, and that might be more, of attraction to them. One of my favorite tricks is I learned from a family caregiver. Her father was living with alcohol-induced dementia, and he always wanted a beer. And she's like, well, I can't give you beer, sir. So she would get the liquid death waters because they look like beer.
Yeah, they do.
And it's like a can. It has the hardcore sign on, so it looks like hardcore beer. And he's chugging those and he's just chugging waters with her.
Yeah.
And so, get crafty if you need to. Yeah.
Have a happy hour, right? Like at the end of the day, like if your person was used to sitting down with a gin and tonic or an old fashioned or whatever, like make a mocktail of that, right?
Love that.
All of a sudden now they're having one or two of those and it's hydration. Yeah. So there's so many creative ways that you can go about doing that. So don't get like tunnel vision about it.
That's awesome. I love all those tips. What about you, Carrie? What questions are you getting in your inbox? I know. I'm limiting you to one. It's not fair.
No, I just want to shout out, I think the most common thing that I'm often talking to people about is their issues with siblings and getting help and asking for help.
Yeah.
But it mainly is those siblings, let me tell you. There's often that one sibling that's just begging for help from everyone else, right? And I think the number one thing is honestly figuring out what you need. Because I don't, like, in taking stock of, okay, I can do these things, but these are the things in caregiving duties that is hard for me, and these are things I can delegate. And being very vocal and clear about what you need from people, because people often want to help, but they do not know how, and they don't want to step on toes, or they just think they're going to mess everything up, or whatever, or they have no, understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah.
So being vocal about your everyday life and how much you're doing is everything. Doing a shared calendar so the whole family can see, and you put every task you do in there and say, look at what I'm doing.
Wow.
And I need you guys can walk the dog. You guys can get the groceries sent to my house for me. I need someone to look up resources in my area. You can do that. Ask for specifics.
Yeah.
Because you're going to more likely get that help, which I know is annoying because it's like another thing you have to do, but people will be more willing to help you if you're just clear on what you need. And people can come and watch a movie with your loved one so you can nap.
Yeah.
Or like, that's not weird to ask. Please feel empowered to ask for what you need, even if it feels like strange to you. Because I said, none of this is normal. I don't know. Right. You have to teach people.
Right.
And people just need to be told, this is all you have to do. They're still your person, and I need you to help me with this. But taking away that guilt is just the biggest thing of asking for help. And so I know it's very layered, but that's one of the biggest things I'd say is speaking up. And with the sibling part is asking specifically things that are strengths of theirs.
Yeah.
Is just the biggest, just really thinking strategically so people will actually show up.
Yeah. When I think sometimes people are like, oh, well, it's such a small task, I'll just do it myself.
Exactly.
But if you're able to delegate like 4 15-minute tasks, that could be an hour back in your day. So I think sometimes thinking about it from that perspective too can be helpful. And I love your suggestion about getting really specific about the ask. And a lot of times people feel maybe guilty, like I don't want to ask. But when I was going through my postpartum journey, a therapist said to me once, let people in to help, because by them helping, it might be doing them a lot of good, and you're giving them the opportunity to do something for you. And often people want to help. So let them in, and they might actually get a lot out of it as well. And that really opened my eyes to okay, yeah, I should let more people in to help and try to, instead of trying to do it all myself. So it can be, it can be beneficial to everyone involved in a lot of different ways.
Well, and there's this layering that happens as care needs increase. And so it's easy for us as family caregivers at the beginning to say, I've got it, I've got it, I've got it. But then as things shift and change, and it's really important as a family caregiver to reassess, reevaluate, where am I at this point? What are the actual needs at this point? I love calendaring. That's such a great idea, Carrie, or just make a list. Just make a list of everything that you're doing, because sometimes people don't even realize how it's adding up or the time that's adding up. And back to the strengths, sometimes people just aren't going to get it, unfortunately. And that really does put people in a really tough position of, I really am on this journey by myself. There is very limited capacity for others to participate. So yeah. One common denominator at a time, I think, is important as a family to try and get on the same page. Are we seeing and experiencing the same thing? There's an exercise where you ask people to draw a picture of a trunk. Everybody just draw a picture of a trunk. And what people draw is not necessarily the same thing. You may draw a car trunk. I draw a tree trunk. You're drawing an elephant trunk. We're not necessarily using the same meaning behind the language that we're using. So get really clear on that as well. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, the question I get a lot is kind of along the same lines as your question, Carrie, but it's more when should I bring in outside help?
Yeah.
when do I take that next step? And a lot of times I tell families, when the care starts to get overwhelming, you're starting to really feel that burden. If you're working, you're raising kids, you're that sandwich generation, you're trying to care for your person. It's starting to feel very, very heavy. Like you can't keep your head above water. Like definitely, you probably actually should have looked into help months ago. I love that presentation you gave recently, and you had people like say, when do you think most people get help? And you have people like raising their hands, and you shared, actually as professionals, we wish you would get help way sooner than that. Because people so often wait for crisis. And so, especially in kind of the dementia space, if your loved one isn't safe being at home any longer and you still need to get out and about and, looking into home care, to come into the home, when wandering becomes an issue, especially like overnight, you're not getting sleep because your person is up all the time. You might need to start looking into help. And it could be home care. It could be those family members, those siblings. And then, in many cases, not all, but, you might need to look into senior living, which I know is kind of your areas of expertise. But I think a lot of people maybe don't know that home care, bringing people into the home, is an option. They think automatically, okay, we got to move them to memory care. And it might be, yes, memory care is right down the road, but maybe for another 6 months to a year, you could have care in the home, some extra help, so that you're not reaching that burnout. You're not feeling so overwhelmed, and just to have somebody who's trained in dementia care. I think that's important when you're looking at outside help, to come in who understands the disease process, the dementia-related symptoms and triggers, and how they can support your loved one. That can be so helpful for the whole family unit and for the person living with dementia. It's a change of face and a new person to share activities with. So I think it's important that families at least look into it, start to do your research. What's available in your area? What are the costs? Because we know there are costs to a lot of this type of care. So I tell families, like, don't wait until you're at that crisis or burnout, because in those moments, stresses are high, emotions are high. You might not have all the options that you want or wish you had. So look into it early, which I know, again, is like adding to a to-do list, but that could be something you delegate to a sibling. Hey, could you look into home care in the area? And I know Home Instead does an extraordinary job training their care pros with dementia care and education, which is brilliant. The other thing, and we were talking about this, is no offense, caregiver, but they may need a break from you. Having, like, if you think about, what keeps just ringing for me in this conversation is how I'm operating right now, cognitively, intact, whole. I don't know what language is appropriate, and I need people. I need a variety of people in my life and in my world. And if we narrow it down to my partner or a child, that is going to impact me and my quality of life and my health and well-being. And so just giving yourself a little bit of space to invite those people in, because everybody could use a little bit of variety in their day.
I don't remember what you said. I think you said this last night. It, like, this person is constantly hovering over me, right? And I had never framed it that way before, but like thinking about that, like that would really annoy me if there's a person that is trying to do the best for me, but they're just always there. Like, give me some space. Come on, just a little bit.
So well intentioned.
Yeah, it's such an eye-opening thing for me, thinking about it from where I come from.
And I would say people, I genuinely believe this in my heart, Lakelyn, that people who work in senior living want people to stay home for as long as possible. I really believe that to be true. And also sometimes having that care pro coming into the home sooner rather than later, and now they are a good friend to your loved one. When that person moves to memory care, we can keep that care pro with them. And assist with that transition, and also just be another friend, set of eyes and ears after the move is done. So it's so fluid. Like there's not a straight path. This is not one and done. Like
that's what makes it so challenging at times, because caregivers want the playbook. And trust me, if I could write a playbook that would be like the right book for every caregiver, I would totally do it, because I want caregivers to have all the resources at their fingertips. That's why I love this podcast, because we get to bring all these people, but it's not a linear path. And I'm so grateful for all of you in the space that are doing this work, because I think caregivers desperately need information and resources to help them in their kind of unique situations.
Yeah, don't get me started with hospice and how that's.
We don't have time for that caregiving segment.
Moving on.
Sorry.
Okay, so our one of our last segments I wanted to do was kind of a fun one. So it's summer. People are gathering. We have holidays. We have like 4th of July coming up, Labor Day. I know my family loves to get together this time of year. We have barbecues and pool parties and all the things. I want us to help caregivers think about, like, how can we include the person living with dementia in a family gathering? And hopefully these tips can be helpful, like when the holidays come about too. But then also, how can we make it enjoyable for the caregiver? Because I think so often they have to say no to those family gatherings, or they have to leave early because their person needs to get home. So I would love for all of us to maybe speak from our areas of expertise on how we can make these gatherings enjoyable for everyone. So Aaron, you're the hospitality guy. I'm going to let you start.
Well, so in putting our workshop together, I think one of the things that I learned that really has stuck with me and has really changed the way we want to approach memory care, especially, from like helping our clients and all of that, is dining is a task. Eating is a task. It's not, and for us, it's a socialization, right? I think about the gathering like we had last night. We gather around food, we socialize around food. When people meet in the home, they're in the kitchen, right? That's what we think about it. And when you're in a senior living community, that's what we talk about. Like, it's a great place for socialization. It's where it happens. Like, that's the core of what it is. When you shift into a setting where you're working with somebody with dementia, they need to be able to complete that task and be as with the least amount of distraction as possible. So how do you create that environment for them, right? So when they come, let them eat. So find a place where they can sit, not necessarily like completely isolated from the gathering, but kind of off to the side. Let them eat, let them enjoy. And then they can come back to the socialization, right? And make sure everybody understands that. The beautiful thing about like these summer gatherings is also like, it's typically like, hamburgers and hot dogs and things like that. That makes it easier for someone, regardless of how far along they are, to be able to enjoy the food, right? So think about, what am I offering as the menu items, right? Like, is it a finger of food? Is it something that they can pick up and handle, so that they can be more independent and I can set them up to be successful? I think that's really, from like the food perspective, probably the two biggest things, right? Is knowing that you need to give them food that they can be successful with and give them the opportunity to complete the task and then re-engage socially and make sure you make time for both of those things to happen.
Super important. I would have never thought about, okay, let's tackle the food, get them fed, make sure that they are eating and enjoying the food and not so distracted by all the socialization, make that, a second priority. I like that.
We had someone in our session as we were interviewing these individuals living with dementia. She literally said that. She's like, I love going to those events, but I need to sit and eat. Like, if you start talking to me and distracting me, I won't be able to eat. I won't be able to finish. And then that just snowballs into the rest of the event. I need to be mentally prepared. So if I can sit and eat, complete that task, check that box, now I can go and be more social. I can engage more with the rest of the party, the rest of the people there. So it was just really eye-opening. And now I think about, how do we do that more in like the operations that we have inside a senior living community? So
she was like, the most stressful thing is when people are like, your food's getting cold, eat. And she's like, she's no, I can't. Like, it's so she eats before family events now, sometimes away from the event.
Yeah. Sometimes they eat before she even goes. And then it's just an activity for socialization.
And that was a huge, same. Like, when I learned that, I never thought about it like that. And it made me think back to like when people maybe weren't eating and I just assumed they weren't hungry. And it's like, no, they couldn't focus on
They're
much goes hand in
overwhelmed.
hand.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Soothing anxiety.
Yeah.
I every single time I think about eating and dining, just got to soothe anxiety for them.
Yeah. Thank you for those tips, Erin. Carrie, what about you? Like from maybe more of the social engagement side of things. Okay, we've eaten, making sure they've had a nice meal at this event. What about the socialization? Because I think sometimes in families, not everyone is up to speed on the person's current state of being, what they're capable of, what they're not, or maybe they try to chime in and say, well, don't you remember? Or that's not how it was. So help us with some of those kind of tips.
It's so hard. But I wanted to say too, just to throw out for the caregiver, if you don't want to go to an event, you don't have to. Yeah, that's you also don't have to people please and go to everything.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're burnt out and not wanting to go. So just giving you permission there. But I think a huge thing is, prepping people before sending out an email, sending out a text. It's like, hey, if you haven't seen, grandma in a while, this maybe, not asking questions, but, sharing feeling, focusing on feelings rather than facts with grandma, and focusing on music or whatever it may be, just some things maybe you notice that could help is great to just kind of do a PSA to the people. And I actually make, and I can share it in the notes. I have like a little PDF, and it's like family and friends visiting tips, which is very clear.
That.
Thank you for being here. You're amazing. You won't mess up, but this is just to help a little bit. And reminding people it's okay. None of us are doing this perfectly, but just having that in your head to slow yourself down and not be so. I'm very intense and loud, so I have to be very conscious of how I come off to people living with dementia. I can be too much, and being aware that more than 2 or 3 people around them might be a little overwhelming. And so to not have the whole family over them and, they're in they're sitting down and everyone's standing above them, that's intimidating.
Oh, absolutely.
We want to get down on their level. We want to be in that moment with them. Focus on, have music going, music is such a great way to connect.
It is.
And have those beautiful moments. So I would really lean into music and just being together. It doesn't have to be anything more than just being together and being present and holding a hand and, just pointing out, look at the kids, it doesn't have to be more than that. I think we build up that it has to be Disneyland and this whole beautiful event and everyone have to play all these games. And it's like, no, we can just be and enjoy and take those expectations off the table. And, if things start getting uncomfortable, if your person needs to go, just shifting and knowing that it's okay to change plans and to move into maybe another room or whatever, but giving yourself that flexibility. But yeah, delegating is huge, saying, we're kind of going to have someone with grandma at all times. And so I can enjoy but making sure that all hands on deck if possible, for sure. Because that's the opportunity for everyone else to really see what's going on too.
Yeah.
But setting everyone up for success is big with the sense of just kind of prepping them, because again, it can be uncomfortable if you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're being rude. You just do not know how to talk to someone with dementia. Yeah. So yeah, just taking away some of that fear for everyone else is big.
Love that. And we'll include in the show notes that tip sheet.
Absolutely.
All right, Michelle, what about the caregiver? We want to make sure they're having a good time too. Any thoughts or tips from that perspective?
Yes, I think expectation management is really, really important. So I think that we also want to protect the dignity of the person that we are caring for. Going to events like this works until it doesn't. So I would encourage family members to I think, be a little bit more realistic if possible about where things are today and now, because I know in the past, maybe that person was the life of the party. They loved having these big gatherings and seeing all the family together. And now maybe that is just too overwhelming for them. So it's just not working anymore. So being realistic about the right environment that is going to be supportive for your person, because as family caregivers, that does impact our level of stress and our ability to enjoy an event. I love Carrie's permission slip not to go.
Yes.
I also want to offer the permission slip to go without someone if that is the best fit for you and or them. Not everybody needs to go to everything.
Yeah.
So just expectation management. And if things are going south, leave, shift gears, go into the other room. It's just giving yourself that compassion and grace to make that change on the fly. Again, you've stepped into the greatest improv show of your life when we are working with loving someone and working with someone with dementia. So it's okay to shift gears if it's just not working.
Another great tip.
Yeah.
And I think too, from a logistics standpoint, like maybe the time, we need to shift the time to be earlier in the day when that person is at maybe their prime, or maybe we do a summer brunch instead of a dinner because they're better in the morning. So I think thinking through the logistics from that side of things as well can be helpful. And then, is there somebody within the family that maybe steps up to say, I'll take our loved one home when they're starting to reach a point where they're no longer having a good time. Or, hey, we're going to bring mom from 2 to 3. And at 3 o'clock, Uncle Bob's going to take her home so that cousin Susie, who's the caregiver, can stay and enjoy. Or I know just last weekend, we have some family who have a home instead caregiver, husband-wife couple. They came to the graduation party. Their care pro dropped them off. They stayed for several hours. The care pro came, picked them up, took them home so that the family could be there and celebrate the graduate and not have to think through all the logistics of the grandparents attending. But you could tell how much they loved being there, seeing all the littles. And so I think you have to maybe get creative around the logistics side of it too, or just bring a few more people in to make sure that it's enjoyable for everyone involved. But again, that permission slip still exists.
And I also say, if you're hosting people and someone is living with dementia or they're a caregiver, speak up about it and say, please bring your person and I'll make sure there's a safe room on the side for your person. If you're hosting, be that safe space for people.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing too. And just being aware, because if the caregiver knows that you are even just thinking of that, what a relief. My friend sees me in my in where I'm at in my life and wants to accommodate me in my person. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah.
Well, and I also think with the flexibility of this, like when I got married, it was May and it was going to be this big wedding, and my grandmother was living in a nursing home at the time. So we invited a team member, like we paid that team member to be there with her the whole time, but we just brought them into the fold.
Yeah.
I mean, they were part of our family anyway.
Right.
Because they're taking care of my grandma. So invite the care pro to stay.
Yes.
And to just be part of the barbecue and be part of the celebration or whatever's happening. Because there can be a lot of fun in that too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that we just had a really fun summer barbecue. That was awesome. Yes, we did. Well, I have so enjoyed our time together. I thought real quick, like a round robin, rapid response to my last question before we say goodbye. What's one thing you wish every family understood about dementia? Carrie, we'll start with you. I haven't let you go first yet.
I feel like I've already said this with the misconception that you're not just dealing with memory loss. You're dealing with so much more. The brain is, we don't know everything about the brain whatsoever. It is so complex, and you never know what your dementia journey you're dealing with is going to be like, truly. And so I just want families to understand it's so much more than memory loss, and you are not people obviously honestly think they're going crazy because they're like, I thought it was just going to be memory loss. What is going on? Is this normal? So please know that it's more than memory loss.
Yeah.
Aaron, what about you?
Well, I've said it like 3 or 4 times. I go back to the soothing anxiety, like how can you create an environment, especially for the non-caregiver, like support around this person? Like, how can I create the right environment for them to be successful, for it to be easy for the caregiver to bring them and have a good experience and enjoy whatever the event or activity is, the space that they're in. I think sometimes I think we try to do too much because we want to support. We're trying to be that caregiver. And so like, just create the right environment that's going to make them feel calm and comfortable and safe. I think that's the key.
Great. Love that. Michelle?
So for me, what I really would love for people to know is as care needs increase, very often for that caregiver, their world begins to shrink because we are trying to protect our loved one's dignity. So maybe we are going out less, or it's just not working for them anymore to go out as much or in certain environments. So I just really want people to know that genuinely and truly, you are not alone. You are surrounded by people who have been on this journey or are on this journey. There are online communities and support that are available to you, and isolating yourself has harmful effects on your health. So just encouraging you to, if you have a business card in your home of someone that offered to support in some way, just start by making calls. It's such a hard thing to do, that very first call, but we believe in you and we support you.
Thank you so much. I just would add that caregivers don't have to do it alone and should not do it alone. Caregiving wasn't meant to do in isolation. And so reach out for help. It's not a sign of failure. It's a sign of strength, and get plugged into a community. All of our communities are here to support you. All of our information is in the show notes. And so we hope that you took something away from today that's helpful. And so I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to each of you for being here, for sharing your time and expertise, and for all you do to support people living with dementia, their families, caregivers. It's really important work. And I'm just so honored to be in this ecosystem, this care ecosystem with all of you.
We feel the same way.
Yes, thank you, Lakelyn. I want to sincerely thank Michelle, Carrie, and Aaron for sharing your time and expertise with the Caregiver Chats community. Your insights are such a powerful reminder that while dementia is complex and far more than memory loss, creating the right environment to soothe anxiety can make all the difference. To our listeners, I hope today's conversation reminds you that you are not alone on this caregiving journey, and that there is an entire ecosystem of support ready to help you. Check out the show notes or video description for all of the resources shared today. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another caregiver. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram at Caregiver Chats Podcast for episode updates, caregiving tips, and more. Thanks for listening, and please remember to take good care of yourself while you care for others. Caregiver Chats is brought to you by Home Instead. If you're looking for in-home care to support you on your caregiving journey, please visit homeinstead.com to learn more.